Alright, what's up guys? So, tonight we're going to be kind of going through what I'm looking for this week's milestone. So I'm going to add a couple things in this video, and then the next video we'll do that walkthrough for the, well, we'll continue through and kind of finish it up. So, again, I have a brand new AutoCAD here, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start drawing. And again, I know I got a couple people who hit me up with questions about this. Don't forget, every time you start a new drawing in AutoCAD, type units, and make sure that you set your length in our class to architectural. Alright, so first thing that we're going to do is I'm just going to repeat that process of building the house that I had, or that small little structure. So again, I'm going to use a polyline. I'm just going to let it snap off into the 10 feet distance, or snap off to the right distance, and then type in 10 feet, and then with this I'm just going to type CL enter to close. I'll hit escape to clear out of the tool I was in, right to left select to grab the walls that are there, and then I'll do offset. I'm going to offset, let's see, wait, sorry, select this, offset, and then I need to specify the distance, which is going to be 6 inches. I'm going to offset it outwards, and then I didn't think of what kind of room I wanted to put next to this. So that's on me. Why don't I do, let's just do something, let's do just a twice as wide room here. So in this case I'm going to actually explode these two lines right here just to kind of separate everything out. And then I'm going to just select that one and delete it. I'll offset this wall. I'll do 4.5 inches for my drawing. So we'll go 4.5 offset to the right. Click to apply that, hit escape to clear the tool, and then I'll let it snap to the endpoint again. We have the different snap options down here, so you can set which ones it shows when you snap. So we'll do this, and let's do 15 feet just so we get a different size. Going down here, let's do another 15 feet. 15 feet. And then I'm gonna, what I could do is I could just close that up. One of the things that you want to do in AutoCAD is you want to have the least number of overlapping or duplicated lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little square right here, and I'm going to move it down and just so it snaps onto that square. I don't want to have excess line segments, and I don't want to have extra things drawn over. Alright, so I'm going to grab these 4 lines that I just drew, and I'm going to rejoin them so that they become a set of lines I can select again, and we'll do another 6-inch offset. And just to double check, yeah, that looks right. Alright, so what I'll do now is I'll select these 2 lines right here. I'll type trim, and I will trim that line and that line. And I kind of want to highlight kind of how this is working. So you see that this line right here is going all the way up here. It's crossing several other lines. Because those lines weren't part of the selection I made, I can still delete this. Whereas if I had selected this whole set of lines, then when I run the trim, it's only going to delete that little tiny segment right here. Okay? So be careful, or be mindful about what you choose to trim. So I'm going to just trim those out. The rest of these lines look good, and then I'm just going to delete this one, and again I'm going to move this point over to here. Another option to do that is if I have, say I've got 2 lines just kind of floating out here, you can select those. Let me explode this again. Okay, so I've got this line and this line, and then we'll do a fillet again. So fillet, and then it says select first object, so we'll select this one, select second object, select that one, and because I had a, you can see right here in the settings, if I bring it up again, fillet, select first object, or do polyline, radius, trim, multiple. If you do R, which we went over, you can set the radius. So if I'd set this radius to something like, say, 3 inches, let me undo that. So we'll do fillet, radius 3. then it would do that with a little curve right there, but it'll get those lines to the same point. So a fillet with a radius of 0 can actually let you kind of close up some open-ended corners like that. Okay, so we have 2 rooms here. So again, I'm going to go through with a line. Actually, let's do the line over here. And then I'm going to move M on, just M will bring that up. I'm going to move it off in this direction, do 6 and enter to move it 6 inches to the left. And then I will offset this to 1'8". And then let's put a couple windows on the back of this wall, so we'll do some 2-foot windows back here. So I'm going to move this 6 inches here. Another line. And we'll move this one 6 inches. Oops. Lost my direction there. Move 6. And then offset distance 2 foot. And we'll offset that. We'll offset that. And then let's do a door at the back of here, so I'll throw in another line. We'll move this. Now, because this is an interior wall, it's going to be framed a little bit differently, so I'm actually going to do this one at 4.5 inches. So we'll do 4.5 because that is the thickness of the wall. That's more of just a way I do it. There are certain codes, different building standards, depending on what you're doing. It might be completely flush. Just, it depends. This is the way that I just typically do it. And if I need to adjust it afterwards, I'll do that. So we will have a 2'6" interior door instead of the 2'8". Oops, 2'8" exterior. So I'll do 2'6". Oh, there we go, and offset that. Okay. So same idea as we did in, or as I did in the last project or the last kind of demo. So I'm just going to select this whole area right here, and again I'll run trim, right to left, and just clearing those areas out. Okay. So now we have this. So next what I'm going to do is I actually need to make some windows for this. So I need to make some windows and I need to make some doors. So I'll do these through a couple steps, but they're pretty much repeatable. All right. This is how I prefer to draw windows. You can have your own way. Feel free to use that. Just make sure that you're consistent and that the type of the window matches up to what the actual window is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a 1-inch line inwards. I'm going to move it 1 inch over, and then this gap itself was 2 foot, so I'll do a line that's going to be 2'2", because we've got to do that offset for both sides, and then I'll draw a line in there, and so this will be the inside of the window. And then on the outside I'm going to do a 2-foot line. Visually it's just a little bit bigger, but also take it over 2 inches. And then another line, and this one's going to be 2'4" across and down 2 inches. So then that creates kind of the sill of the window, the bottom of it, so that you have something to kind of visually go, okay, that's a window in plan view. Next we need to draw the window itself. And so again, there's different ways people draw these. This is the way that I learned to do it, and it's pretty much going to be, I'm going to draw that right there. So that would be something like a fixed pane window. If you had, say, a sliding window where you have a bottom section that slides up, then you would have a second offset here, where I would do one down, so you would have the section that slides up and they would, overlap in a certain way right there. And then let me just grab this whole section right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the copy button, and I'm going to choose a base point of this corner right here. And I'm choosing this corner right here very specifically because I can match it up over here. If I choose this part right here, I have to kind of guess and kind of shoehorn that to the right spot. Oops, lost my selection. But if I choose this corner right here, I have access to that corner right here automatically. So I can immediately place that without trying, okay? All right, so if I have a sliding window where like one window slides left or right to cover the other one, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one line here. I'll offset it, let's see, 1 inch, 1 inch that way, select, oops, I had it, and then this one 1 inch that way, and then we will use this set of lines to trim. Now these aren't going to be 100% accurate to how the physical window is going to be built, but it's something where when you are looking at this at a distance on a piece of paper, you should be able to at least kind of visually recognize what's going on with these windows, okay? Now let's make a door. So doors are a little bit simpler. I'm going to, let's see, this was 2'8". Yeah, 2'8". So to make this door, I'm going to go up 2'8". I'm going to go over 1 inch. I'm going to come down, and I'm not going to try and go in here because sometimes you might snap inwards. I'm going to just go past that point down here, so I don't even have to worry about that, and then CL to close. Now, I need an arc in order to draw the swinging arc of this door. So again, with the arc tool, I'm going to do center, start, end. So I will come to the pivot point right here of this door. That's the center. This part of the door right here is the start. And then I'm going to hold down Control so that I switch over to the correct drawing bit here. And then I'm going to go right. So my OCD is you could always go here, but it's going to leave the tiniest of gaps. So I go here and then run a trim because OCD. So yeah, there we go. All right. So that's how I would draw doors. Just a 1 inch rectangle right here. Show that swing. For this other one, so some people prefer doing like a 45-degree angle. So again, we went over the how to draw the distances by typing it in. So this is a great point where being able to type that in, or just drawing it like this. So, but again, 2'6". So if I was to do 2'6" angle, sorry, all right, 2'6". No, okay, it's just gonna snap that way. I guess we'll deal with that. I don't need to go crazy about that. We'll go 1 inch on that snap, and then 2'6", and snap that right there. And then again, same thing with the arc. It should now be set to center, start, end. So I'll go center, start, and then this one's the correct way for this one. So I'll just bring that in right there, and then again, trim a little bit out, and we're good to go there. Okay, so once you've created these doors and windows, I guess we're just going to end up doing one demo tonight, it looks like. So once you've created these doors and windows, what you can do is you can turn them into groups, and that's fairly simple. You just kind of select your way through, and then you can do group, and it just basically turns this into a single group. Okay. The other option you have, and that's just like if you group something in SketchUp, it's its own collection of lines. But there's another option which is in AutoCAD. It's called blocks, which is like AutoCAD's version of components in SketchUp. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those bits right there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type block, and it's going to give me this menu right here. So this was a 2-foot sliding. I could be more descriptive about that, but that's just kind of what I'm going to go with for this. All right, so when you're naming a block, just make sure it's kind of descriptive so that you know what it is when you look it up in the list. You might end up, if you have a larger model, having 100 blocks or so. So knowing kind of what it is, if maybe you want to do a naming style where you go window, slider, exterior, 2 foot. However you want to do it, or 24 inches, however you want it. I think it doesn't like quotes though. So, yeah, there's different ways you can name them. Whatever works for you. Find something that works well. And if you're working in a group project, find someone else who's in the group and just make sure that what you're naming them works well for them too. All right, so let's go through this menu. Base point. We need to specify a base point. Otherwise, it's going to use the default kind of 0, 0 origin of this whole piece or this whole drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do pick point right here. I'm going to choose one of these 4 corners right here of the inside of the window. Again, just like when I copied it earlier, knowing exactly, I'm always going to know where one of these corners is because you're going to get that nice right angle between this side and your window here or here. Any of those will work. Whatever works for you is fine, okay? So I'm just going to click right there. Menu comes back. Specify on screen. Now, you can do that, but my habit that I always have gotten myself into is to actually select them before you convert it to a block so that you don't have to do this in the middle of this. And then finally, behavior annotative. We'll be getting into annotative in another demo next week because we're going to be doing 2 weeks in AutoCAD. So keep in mind this annotative button is here. Do not check it for now. And that's good. So I'm going to hit OK. And now we have kind of, you can see it's slightly different. So the square here is going to be where I assign the origin for this, whereas it's in the center of this. So this is going to make this one, this group, a little bit harder to move, or a little bit harder to actually accurately position. This one's, I'm going to have to kind of do some finagling to get it in position, whereas this one, I can just grab that handle and move it into the right spot, okay? So there's a couple advantages to using blocks, including the ability to reuse them, but also easily just kind of place them, okay? All right, next up, let's do our doors. So doors, same thing. I'm going to do a left to right select, and I can just grab everything like that. And again, I'm going to do block. We'll call this door exterior 2 foot 2'8". I think I did. We will pick the point. Now with the doors, you can do this point right here, or you can do this point right here. I like doing the swinging arc point because you can place that and then rotate the door, whereas you sometimes get in a little bit, well, I don't know. It shouldn't be different, but I don't know. My brain works better when I use this spot. So again, choose what you want, but I'm going to do that one right there. Objects are already selected, and it's not annotative, so we're good to go there. So now again, I have that block, and then left to right select, block, door, interior, 2'6". Pick the point, and we're going to go with that right there. And it's going to convert it to block, non-annotative, good to go. And there we go. All right, so a couple ways to create doors and windows right there. If you have a personal preference, I don't care. I want you to be consistent in your drawing is all I'm looking for. So don't worry if you've been trained somewhere else and you do your drawings for your doors or windows slightly differently, whatever. Just be consistent on your model, all right? All right, so let's get into layers. So just like we had layers in SketchUp, or tags as they're now called, we have layers here in AutoCAD. And that's going to be in this menu right here. This, I believe, is actually finally now consistent between Mac and PC. Hopefully I'm not wrong. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Layer Properties right here, and it's going to open up this menu. No, you know what? I think it looks different on AutoCAD now that I think about it. Okay, anyway, so 0 is going to be your default layer. You're always going to have 0. If I slide this open, I can just talk about some of these real quick. So we have a couple different things going on here. So let's see. So we have these different options right here. Yeah, we don't worry about those. All right. So this first one is on and off. So you can toggle the layer on or off. It's going to give me this warning because I only have one layer and it's the one I was turning off. But you can turn layers on and off right here with this light bulb. The next one is freeze, and freeze is going to be something specific that we'll get into later when we actually start setting up paper spaces for your project for AutoCAD. So don't worry about that one right now. It's just going to be something that you will want to remember where that is for later when I just probably crash through here and go and hit freeze and then move on. So there's that. Lock, obviously, will lock the layer. Plot will toggle whether or not that layer gets printed. So if you want to have notes on your drawings that you don't want printed, you can have them on a specific layer and then tell that to not print. Color is the one we're interested in, and that we'll get to in a second here, which is to set the color for that layer that you will see. In general, anytime, I think with some exception, you can tell AutoCAD to print colors, but generally we're going to be setting AutoCAD to only print black and white. So it will take all your layers and then convert them back to black and white. There are some people I've met who really like doing kind of like some parts of their CAD drawing in color, and it looks really cool. Like I've seen some artistic, like actually artistic CAD drawings. Um, don't worry about trying to make it look artistic. We're trying to get it to work first. So the other thing is line type, and we've got a line type and a line weight. If you click on it, you can load in here a bunch of different line types. Again, don't worry about that for right now. We'll be getting into that next week. And then we also have line weights. And right now we're going to go with the default, but there are a series of line weights. And not in my class, but in the next class after that, you'll be going into detail on how to accurately determine what line weights to use, and how you will highlight them in different ways in your models, depending on what it is you're doing. All right. So for this purpose, or for this right now, we're just going to create a new layer. So I'm going to click on this little one that's got the sun next to it. There's this other one for name, delete, and what's that, current? Yeah. So I'm going to click new. We'll get a new layer going on here. And I'm going to call this doors. So we'll create a layer for our doors and a layer for our windows. And then just to do it, I'm going to set some colors for them. So I'm going to choose, I don't know, I'll do a burgundy for the door, or that. We'll do that for the doors. And then we'll do that for the windows. There are official guidelines and styles, and then there are what individual shops use. There's a hot mess. The general thing that a lot of people follow is IBC, International Building Codes, and I don't. I mean, no, it's the drafting standards. But there's like a bajillion drafting standards out there. They're all crazy complex, and there's no guarantee that every shop is going to use them or use them to the degree that they're specified. So, um, I think it is more important that you should learn how to set them up than it is that you should learn to stick to a specific style. Because you can always go and change things, but if you don't know what you need to change them to, you can figure that out. Did I say that right? I hope I said that right. Anyway, so we've got doors, windows, and then we can close this. So just like with SketchUp, remain in your default layer, always work in your default layer, build things in your default layer, and then move things off to the other layers. So I have my windows here. I'm just going to move them off to those layers. I'll select my doors, and I'll move them to the doors layer. So it's a fairly simple process. We can get rid of that. To actually move things off to other layers. Now, generally, you're going to want to keep your doors and your windows in your model at all times. But there are times where maybe you don't, or, excuse me, um, at a certain point, for example, we'll be getting into dimensions. That's kind of another thing too. But you might have a layer for dimensions where you don't want your dimensions showing up, or maybe you have interior dimensions on one set, exterior on another. So there are different things that you're going to want on and off in different areas. So just keep that in mind as you start setting your model up. And a lot of times when you get into a larger commercial project, you're looking at dozens and dozens and dozens of layers, and they have a specific naming schema, and it gets crazy complex. All right, we're not worrying about that right now. We're just focusing on learning AutoCAD. So we'll keep it simple for now. We'll just do doors and windows, and we will go with that. Now, what else? I think that was all I wanted to do, really, um, for this demo. Yeah, I think we're good for, well, so we got blocks, we got layers. We did a slightly larger room. We have that offset. Oh, you know what? That's what it was the fill. I didn't do the fill yesterday. So, to actually fill in these walls, we want solid walls on here instead of just lines. So, what you'll do is you'll type hatch, and it'll bring up this menu right here. Now, sometimes it loads kind of slow, and it does weird stuff, so just kind of stick with it. So I want my walls to be filled, so I'm going to choose solid up here, and it's going to give me a solid color, in this case black. I'm going to do pick points. Um, Now again, this is one of those things where it's kind of, you can do it one way, you can do it another, however you want to do it is fine. I usually don't do um, do my hatch fill until I'm done with the model. And the reason is because if I have to go back and edit a wall, then I have to go back and edit the fill. And if I edit the fill, then I have to go in, well, let me show you guys. So if I was to click inside of each of these walls, you can see that as I move the mouse over, it's going to add that to it. Once I'm done, I can do close hatch creation, okay? So now that I've done that, this hatch that I just made is one huge set, all right? If I was to then, for whatever reason, I get a change, and this wall needs to come out 1 foot, all right? I'm not going to worry about adjusting all that other stuff for now. Let's see. Let me get this mostly back in the right spot. Okay, there we go. All right, so you can see now that I've done that, I have this going on right here. So now I've got to go and I've got to edit this. And I'm not a huge fan of this because it's kind of like annoying and whatnot, because now I've got to go and edit this whole thing. And usually what I just end up doing is deleting it and drawing it over. Which then means now I've got to do a whole bunch more work to get everything set back up. So let me clean this up here. All right, and you can come down here. So we'll do hatch again. And so again, it's one of those things that kind of just depends on how you're working and what you're doing. But I kind of like doing just, there's that segment, hitting spacebar to close out the hatch, or to finish with the hatch tool. Spacebar again, click, spacebar, spacebar, click, spacebar. And that will cycle you through the hatch tool and create those hatches, the fills, and then close it out. Okay? So it's spacebar, click, spacebar, spacebar, click, spacebar. And that works pretty well for quickly putting them all, and then I will do them in different segments. Now it gets kind of tedious, and if you have a larger model where you might have like some weird floating column somewhere, you might miss it. So it's one of those things where you have to be a little bit more careful if you're going back and editing it, but you'd probably miss it anyway if you missed it the first time, if you did a monolith, sort of everything has one giant fill. So yeah, there's that. Couple other things. I realize I haven't showed you guys how to do mirror yet, which is another tool that kind of comes in handy once in a while. And mirror is pretty simple. I'm just going to kind of copy paste this. So I'll click here and I'll hold down control while I do it just to kind of copy. So let's say that I had this same door. Oops. Okay. I must have had that still selected. There we go. Alright, so let's say that for whatever reason there's actually a double door here, alright? So I can offset this and we'll go down to 4'6". And I probably could have just moved it too. We'll do a trim, take care of that, and do that. So I've got this door right here. It's this same, come on, brain. Um, Same block as I have on the other side here, but I need it to swing the other way. So what I can do is I can do mirror. I think it's MIR will get you there. Um, and so it says specify first point of mirror line. So what you're doing is you're setting up the perpendicular axis that your thing will rotate over. So if I wanted this to flip the correct direction, oops, I had both selected. Mirror. Um, so I could zoom in right here, and you see if I move it this way, it's going to kind of flip over this line that I have. It's going to flip over that to the top, and mirror it that way. Whereas if I move down here, it's going to do the same thing, but it's going to flip from right to left. So you can rotate it or mirror it in any direction with this tool. Just be aware that you kind of have to make sure you know which direction you need to go. Now, once you do that, say click there and it says erase source objects. You don't always want to erase them. Sometimes you want to keep the original. So for example, if I didn't just copy that out, I could have done mirror and oh, no I couldn't have because I don't have a point there for it to reference. Now I do. Okay. Mirror, and then we can go like that. And because this is the same gap size and everything, it should match up perfectly. And then when I choose erase source objects, I'll do N, enter, and it'll leave the original there, and I can get rid of that temporary line. Okay? And then I can come back and hatch this in, and spacebar. All right, so a couple different things there. I will have the milestone for this week posted on the website. A little bit longer, but saves us from doing two separate videos. So that's what we got. I'll see you guys in class.